Hey, how's everybody doing? Day 248, 365 days towards racial change. My name is Thomas Nyback. Thanks for coming back and joining us for this daily experience, this brief, community. Try to keep it 30 minutes or less. Don't want to hold you hostage. And, talking about black issues in America. This gun violence thing. I was just thinking about this. The government, I feel like the government is getting ready to step in and do something. And, forget NRA, forget opposition and all that. We're about to see a whole new system on guns and having guns and things like that. The gods of war, those who are profiting from these weapons of mass destruction, they need to be reined in, because they're just dumping the military chaos on the civilian population, and we're going to see some change in that. Now, this is likened to something that happened actually in history. The Second Amendment, we talked about this a while ago. I need to revive this part of the conversation for black people. Second Amendment, that's about, it's a reaction because around the time of the Second Amendment, Haiti had the slaves in Haiti had their successful revolt, becoming the black nation. French speaking, but they cast off the French chains successfully and all that. When word of that revolt got to America, America at the time said, okay, we need to create militia and stuff. Let's let our citizens arm themselves, create militias, roam the countryside to put down any possible slave insurrection, the freedom movement, and all that. We need armed militia. It's a big basis of our Second Amendment. The government stepped in to address the potential threat that the slaves could bring about, and the numbers of slaves compared to whites was an issue as well. Well, I think we're going to see American government make some moves. The frequency is just too great, and we are we're devolving on this issue. It makes me wonder about the wild, wild west. This disarming of the West. You look at your West, everybody carried guns and stuff. Seemed to be a pretty stable space. I read something also. I think that Australia is kind of an open carry space, and they don't struggle with this kind of thing like America does. It makes you wonder about America's freedom, liberties, and all the stuff, that we tout all over the world, yet we are the most violent nation to ourselves in the world. Oh yeah, we got genocides over there. Those are clear conflicts. But we're indiscriminately killing each other. Interesting. If it ever, excuse the expression, if it ever dies down, we're going to, anthropologists and scientists are just going to be writing on this block of history writing volumes about this phenomenon. If it ever abates, we're in the midst of it now. But I just wanted to muse on that, the connection of, the government, the connection between the government feeling the threat on this new issue, although it's been old. We've had this mass thing going on for quite some time now. But relating that to the origin of the Second Amendment, which is, it's an initiative that's anticipating some heavy conflict resistance from black slaves. That's a big motivation for our Second Amendment. We don't talk about that in reality. We just want to have the right to bear arms because we're thinking they got the argument somewhere else, and that's not really the basis. Concerned about the black mind, educated, discerning this stuff, critiquing violence, gun violence in America, and housing it in the proper terms and all that, recognizing, that this, how the government forwards initiatives based on some present social stress in America, and how that can be directed, used in a way against black folks, black freedom. I dare not get a gun and openly carry. Hey, I plan on handling guns, but at a gun range in a controlled environment, stuff like that someday. But no, it's like the last thing a black man needs to be doing is carrying a gun. I saw a guy had a gun on him. He made the mistake of running from police. Nah, you don't do that, right? A couple years ago, routine traffic stop. Brother had his gun on him, probably properly displayed and all that, but his hand went near it, took 2 point blank in the chest. Now he was just reaching for identification, but his identification happened to be near the wall. He didn't inform the police officers, things like that. But black folks are already at risk, and we bear the brunt of America's dysfunction, So as America addresses this huge gun violence problem, it'll make initiatives and do things to focus maybe on white America, but those underneath the system will suffer further and more, exponentially more than white counterparts. Does the black mind know this? Does the black mind critique, understand, look at some of these things? What is the white, the mind, how can I say it? What's the demeanor of the white folks, white mind, on this issue? How does it get along? How does it feel, understand about gun violence, anything? The NRA, that's my guess. I've not done any heavy research. Just know Charlton Heston was involved with those guys. I like Charlton Heston. I watched Ten Commandments multiple times. Well, the NRA, that's a white group, They say, right to be armed and all that stuff, they have a lobbying and stuff like that going on. But does that privilege bring any sensitivity to the argument? To have a weapon, to be white. I mean, one thing anybody can know about America is like, you don't extend a right of privilege and then try to take it back. Americans don't like that at all. You're going to get some resistance there. And now you're talking about armed people. Some issues. Well, we'll see what comes up in the history. I hope, I don't know if I'm prophesying or just brainstorming or what, but let's see what comes about in the near future with this gun violence thing in relation to rights and privileges along color lines. Interesting stuff woven in there. Financial literacy, get your financial literacy together, no matter who you are, but especially black folks, because black financial literacy is not taught, forwarded, not in the circles I grew up in, as far as black folks. So get that together. Understand your money, how it works, where it's going, who's benefiting, how to keep it, all those things. Do it now. Start now, wherever you're at. I'm inspired to do this work by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. Welcome, if you're new. Welcome, new subscribers. Read 3 of his works. He's all over YouTube, easy to find. Dr. Claude Anderson. Read 3 of his works. Black History Reader. We are still in this text, looking at General Andrew Jackson in relation to the reparations argument. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Poweronomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at poweronomics.com. And he's all over YouTube here. Behind me, see the hashtag #US2 symbol, Black women coming to support one another and find the community. Check out Black Enough, BLGGENUF. I have a Black Facebook experience. There are plenty of sites and all that on the World Wide Web. If you can't find your flavor, do what I did. Start your own and nurture your little community and see where it goes. This topic is black issues and race in America, but you can use gardening, carpentry, mathematics, philosophy, anything. It's your world now. You got the internet now. You make your world. And we have story time. We're going to have story time. As soon as I exhaust these notes, I didn't realize I wrote so much on vacation out of a Black History Reader, but we're going to look at getting back into story time, Uncle Tom's Cabin, and find out how Tom, slaves, slave masters are doing their fictional slave life in America. All right, today's part 2, we were talking about reparations in relation to General Andrew Jackson. We talked about him going down illegally, crossing international boundaries, and a lot of these implications, scooping up black people indiscriminately, taking them back up north to be slaves. He murdered, pillaged, and all this stuff, and kind of the aftermath. You got white people seeing all this developed land just sitting there idle, so they come in, take it over, and all that. This is 1812, 1818, and then roughly 12 years later, Andrew Jackson is president. He presides, recognized as presiding over the Trail of Tears initiative and scooping up all the rest of the undesirables out of Florida, making a march west of the Mississippi River, Trail of Tears, history and all that. What history fails to mention, recognizes that upwards of 40% of those individuals were black, whether they were black Seminoles, because black folks had, were intermixing. Sex is the great equalizer. So you had a lot of interaction and stuff. So you had black slaves, free blacks, black Seminoles, all this stuff going on. Anyway, everybody scooped up and transported west of the Mississippi. So we're still talking about reparation issues. General Andrew Jackson, back in this time, the 1812, 1818, he violated some constitutional prohibitions against the importation of slaves, specifically 1789. That says that it was going to be illegal to import slaves after 1808, and he violated that. He violated international treaties and stuff like that. Now, I mean, Florida was easy pickings because Spain didn't put a big military force there. They didn't really hold on to those spaces as they may have done with Mexico, Central America, South America, on down like that. Some of the islands and whatnot, Florida territory, they were just indifferent towards. So Florida was always easy pickings. However, even the government up north in America still recognized Florida's sovereignty to a degree, and felt that Andrew Jackson had violated the law in doing that. They did try to court-martial Andrew Jackson, but wealthy white slave-owning Southerners came to Andrew Jackson's aid, and nothing much came out of that. Even Andrew Jackson later became 7th president of the United States, 1829 to 1837, 2 terms. His although he was a lawbreaker, some of his popularity to hold on to the office for 2 terms was his resistance to central banking. But that's an issue beyond the scope of this forum, this project here. If you can read about it in a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island by a man named G. Edward Griffin, it'll give you plenty of material on Jackson's popularity as president. So anyway, Jackson's going down. He's down there. He's just indiscriminately scooping up black people. He's just, it's color, the skin. It's very apparent being black, right? Almost any other identity you choose, or any identity that you choose to be recognized for, let me put it that way, is an identity one has to be explicit about. The easy illustration is LGBTQ plus community. You look at a person, but they may have to disclose their sexual orientation, their gender, stuff like that. These are very not as apparent as skin color. You could be 100 yards away and know I'm a black man or a black person, right? It doesn't, you don't have to come up to me and ask. So that's, Jackson, Andrew Jackson, he's just a violation. He's just all the black people. But some black people were citizens, some were escaped slaves, some were slaves, some were slave owners. He didn't care. He used American resources as far as military forces might to go take black people, darker skinned people, whoever, you fair game because your skin is dark. Therefore, you are part of the population that I'm looking for. So that's how he rolled. So the violation, he's taking international citizens and whatnot, kind of problematic to a degree because Spain did not, Spain did not step up, send military help, protect their own borders, and stuff like that. You know, I don't know. Spain must have been depending on America's goodwill and good intentions and whatnot. Didn't want to rock the boat, so to speak. Very problematic. Very problematic um, for the free blacks, for any blacks in that Florida territory. Jackson's misusing military resources and stuff like that. But he's invading another country, he's risking war, though. He's pushing America to the edge. Spain, I guess they were busy with other interests that, they have greater territories, Mexico on down to the tip of Chile and stuff, so that, Spain was exhausted already and had other interests further south. So it's, what a deal. This whole America thing is like, what a deal. So much opportunity was in favor of the person, group, or individual that knew how to maximize resources in this time and just carve out, get that foothold there in America. And they exploited and maximized to their heart's content. So Spain was like, when I was a little kid, my yard didn't have a fence. Got fences all over the place. Now everybody's got a fence, but I didn't have a fence in my very younger years. So the fence came on, a few years later in my awareness. But initially, my yard had no fence. So people take the goodwill and trust people roaming through the yard. I grew up in the woods and all that. I think that's how Spain treated Florida. No idea of fencing in that space, so people could just come and go. That's what Andrew Jackson did too. And here again, let's review quickly the legal justification for this slavery ownership into perpetuity. How white folks claimed ownership of black people. That was in a sense the intellectual property of white people, and white people wanted ownership of that into perpetuity, and there was had no argument against that. So that argument really solidified in the way Andrew Jackson was going in and out of Florida taking people. Because the idea was that he's taking property of white owners further north. The once property, you're always property, right? And so the reparations argument says, if this is true, if white people gained and prospered into perpetuity from the efforts and from ownership of black folks, then black folks should be repaid into their own perpetuity for this ownership, this free labor, free wealth amassed and passed from generation to generation. White people, then black people, descendants of slaves, have a right to that. They need to be reparated, gain some reparations from that. The black inheritance of slavery should be equally as strong for inheriting some compensation. Because black folks in the nation are recovering. We're recovering from economic and social assault here, domestic terrorism against black people here on the land, and walls, resistance built up, entrenched against black people in America. And how does, you know, as that is the truth, as that is the case, therefore, to do right by black people is to compensate. We could talk about 40 acres, a mule, $100. This goes back to 1787 arguments and putting the Constitution together in the first place. That argument came about, which actually really hasn't materialized. I haven't looked aggressively, but if it happened on a large scale for black people, I can't find it. Generations are recovering from the damage. It takes generations for black people to recover once they kind of get it together in their minds about what they should be doing. It takes a long time. White people, once they make a determination to go in a direction, it takes a generation or two, maybe three, and you see them, they've got some momentum in their progress. Black people have to take generation after generation, which makes it exponentially harder. And especially where black people do not readily communicate with one another about some of these values and what's important, things like that. We keep reliving the mistakes of our fathers and mothers instead of saying, hey, you might not want to do that. You need to learn how to take criticism. Some basic stuff. Those conversations are pretty much absent from black interaction, as far as I know. If it's going on a grand scale somewhere, please tell me so I can participate. Blacks need the compensation. We need reparations. 14th Amendment has an equal protection provision, which is violated by Andrew Jackson, and it also says that the United States can make an effort for this reparations for black people if it wanted to. It doesn't have to be some crazy bureaucracy. It's already written into an amendment of the Constitution that the government has that right. But anytime you talk about enriching and empowering black folks, you're gonna get some resistance, and it's like it comes about naturally. It's not like you have to. The resistance doesn't have to be encouraged. It's just a matter of fact, natural response by the white system to resist overt black progress, success. And that's because historically that's the case. Dr. Anderson, sums up this section later. He says, look, and this is his big overarching message for blacks to educate themselves, organize, around these issues, come collectively as a group, and we can move this whole conversation along, facilitate it much easier. Disunity, ignorance, there's a lot of problems that black people have in making this a reality. But therein is where it lies. We have a responsibility. It's never, the white system is never going to willingly improve black life above itself. Anywhere in the system, you're going to have that. Um, it's like your employer making you richer than them. That's not how it works. But if blacks organize, got together, we can at least start competing equally, which is all we really want. We're navigating obstacles and resistance, and not being hindered in open, equal competition. Now, that's a big problem. But we'll get there. I think we'll get there someday. We've got, the world's, I think, is heading for some big lessons. The country is heading for some bigger lessons, but these will correct, and hopefully we'll see. Probably not in my day. I'll be gone. I'll be ashes. But I think someday we'll see it where people will be like, you know what? You were born on the earth. You have a right to a portion of it. Everybody does. Let's not hurt ourselves. Let's stop hurting one another. And let's move on. We're going to have to go through some heavy labor pains before we collectively come to our senses in that regard. I'm Thomas Nyback. I don't want to hold you hostage. That's day 248 out of the way. Day 248. Thanks for hanging in there. Great to see you again. Please come back tomorrow and we'll see what kind of trouble we can get into. Thanks. Bye-bye.